Gardens have always played an important role in rural living. Most people on farms try to do their best to grow a large, productive garden. However, in urban areas, the story is different. Smaller lots, big garages, large trees, and lush lawns have covered up urban real estate that used to be devoted to summer gardens. Added to that, usually both homeowners are tending to full-time jobs. But there's a movement afoot changing all that. Keri Fox owns and operates Green Sister Gardens in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, a city that is home to about 35,000 people. Keri grew up in rural Saskatchewan and trained to be an electrician. She soon became successful owning and operating her own electrical contracting company. In spite of that, she didn't think being an electrician was her true calling.
The first thing I did was I figured out a way to sell my business and kind of get out of that. I took a leap of faith, not really knowing what my next step in life was going to be. I just knew that, I had to kind of let go of everything that I was doing in order to find something that made sense to me and that was going to be something positive that I could do. So that's what I did, and I took a year, probably a little bit more, a year and a half, and I started taking permaculture workshops and just going in totally different direction than I had been previously involved in. And after about a year, I took, just on a whim, took a workshop in Calgary that was about spin farming, and I had no idea what that was. So I drove 6 hours for this 2-day course on something I had no idea what it was, but I got there, and within the first 15 minutes just kind of hit me that this is what I've been waiting for, something where I could actually earn an income and do something that I truly believed in, it's organic and it's healthy. It's the way I wanted to be living. It kind of followed that whole lifestyle that I was looking for.
As Keri mentioned, she took a course on spin farming, which stands for small plot intensive farming in an urban environment.
So I use people's backyards. I grow organic vegetables. I develop a relationship with a person that owns that land, and they get a weekly box of vegetables in exchange for me using their space. I just require, a city water hookup, basically a faucet outside their home. So I'll grow the vegetables there, and all the excess I take and I sell it to restaurants. I sell it at the farmers market, and then I do a CSA program, which stands for customer supported agriculture. And people come to my house on Fridays, pick up a bin of just a variety of whatever's ready to harvest. It changes week to week, just depending on the time of season. It is sustainable. The first 2 years, it was a bit of a learning curve, and, kind of ramped up and found my customer base. But the farmers market in Moose Jaw has grown significantly over the last 3 or 4 years. So that's providing a good source of income. Something that I'm really focusing on now is restaurants, and chefs they like my product because it tastes better, right? It's fresh. I've harvested it within 2 days of it being delivered, so they notice that difference, and so it's kind of a good relationship that way.
Keri has several garden plots on various city lots in Moose Jaw. The key to a successful urban farmer is to keep costs as low as possible. So as you can see, Keri relies on pedal power, complete with a custom-built trailer, to make her rounds to her gardens.
Today I'm harvesting some lettuce, and I use it I sell just a lettuce plain, and I use it in a spring salad mix. I do this usually once a week.
And you use a pretty unique tool for it?
Yeah, this is called a greens harvester, and it's just powered by a cordless drill.
So how does it work?
So it's just kind of like a combine, actually. It just has a blade down here that goes back and forth and slices the lettuce as the rollers kind of brush it into the basket in the back.
Keri is constantly harvesting produce from her urban gardens, microgreens every 12 days or so, and other vegetables every 40 days. As a result, she is also continually planting crops during the growing season.
This cedar is a jang cedar, and so it's I bought this one because it's more precise, so I don't, when I'm planting stuff like radishes or carrots, I don't have to go back and thin them, which saves me a lot of time. So these beds would have been harvested last week, and I prepped them yesterday, and so now I'm just going to reseed these 2 beds with radishes, and they'll be ready in about 40 days. And I'll harvest them and kind of do the same procedure again. Basically, there's a hopper here. I have different rollers that go inside depending on what kind of crop I'm gonna plant, and I can adjust things, like I can put different sprockets on it so that the seed spacing is a little bit different, so it's adjustable that way. And so basically it's just in there, it's gonna turn and seeds are gonna fall out as I kind of push it along.
Aside from supplying restaurants with fresh greens and those who subscribe to receive her weekly basket of fresh veggies, she also spends 2 days a week at the local farmers market.
We're down at the Moose Jaw Farmers Market. We're here every Wednesday and Saturday. Wednesday is kind of a smaller market, and then Saturdays we have 2 tables set up with a lot more stuff. A lot of greens mixes. I do like a spring mix, lots of microgreens, some Swiss chard, some kale, pretty much. And I did a bunch of like pre-made salads, but they're also good. I have like a lot more variety on the weekends, so I'll have things like kohlrabi and carrots and beets. And then a lot more, I guess, varieties of microgreens. I do like different microgreen mixes and some pea shoots and different things like that. I kind of keep everything at a constant price, so it's like 1 product for $3, or you can mix match, get 2 for $5.
Keri works with several homeowners who give up a portion of their yards in exchange for getting regular deliveries of fresh greens and vegetables. Kirby Froese provides Keri with about 1,000 square feet of garden space.
Well, my wife and I moved back from British Columbia about 4 years ago, and British Columbia, the CSA programs have really gained a foothold out there. We were looking for something similar to that, and it was just a chance meeting with Keri that enabled us to put it all together. We've got a pretty big backyard, and although we like spending time in our green space on the lawn, there's a pretty good chunk of it that we decided we'd go to garden. Way more than the 2 of us would ever be able to plant, eat, or weed, or whatever. So it was a great opportunity, rather than see it just go to lawn. It would be, providing some economy, providing an income for somebody, providing a food source, and it looks good. It looks good having a garden in the backyard.
As mentioned earlier, Keri's gardens vary in size and location from her home base. This is one of her larger units, where she grows her plants on about 6,500 square feet of space.
So because this garden is one of the closest ones to my house, I grow the things that I need to come and harvest more regularly. So I'll grow a lot of lettuces and different greens and microgreens. So microgreens take about 12 days to grow. And so I'll plant those, they'll grow, and then I'll harvest them. And then the following week I'll replant that bed. So this is a garden that I need to frequent quite often. Usually it's 40 days or less, the date to maturity on the stuff that grows in these gardens. I'm growing on less than an acre of land with all my gardens put together, so it's really important that I utilize each one of these beds multiple times. So I try and grow things that I focus on things that will mature in 40 days or less, so that I can grow that crop, harvest it, sell it, till up the bed and replant it. So it's kind of most of my gardens are that way. It's a really high rotation, just to, in order to make enough money, or make money on that small of a space. Down at the far end I have peas and beans growing, and I don't really focus on those kind of crops too much because they're not a high value crop. I do grow them just to have some variety in my CSA bins, because obviously people like to eat peas and beans. I have some edible flowers after that, some radishes, some parsley, a row of mixed lettuce. I've got some carrots here in the middle, some more lettuce, and then there's some microgreens and baby beet leaves, some baby kale that I use in some of my mixes, and then I have some mustard greens, and then at the far end there's some onions. And the onions I generally just grow as a green onion. I harvest it after 40 days. So this garden was one of the first gardens that I had. It belongs to my naturopath doctor. So I told her about my crazy idea, and she offered up her space. She's got a big yard here. So hers is a little bit further away from my house. So I grow different things, like I have tomatoes and peppers in the greenhouse, and then I grow Swiss chard and some more tomatoes in the back part. So it's just I use it a little bit differently than I used the last garden that we were at, because it's more of an intensive high rotation area, whereas this one I come to once a week. I come to harvest, and I come to usually check on the tomatoes and do a little bit of weeding. And it's also good for a season extender, so I can plant, like a crop of lettuce in April in the greenhouse and harvest that and then plant my tomatoes in there. And then at the end of the season, I'll do the same thing. I'll rip all the tomatoes out, replant it with some kind of greens, and get, an extra crop out of it.
Aside from planting, weeding, watering, and harvesting throughout the summer months, Keri Fox also has invested in a backyard workstation to prepare her products for her customers.
This is my post-harvest station. So the vegetables come back here. We set up totes for washing here, and we utilize the sink, so everything gets washed. And then this is all our packaging supplies. Got scales and different things to individually portion out the greens that we are harvesting. Sometimes, like for farmers markets, a bunch of little bags. For restaurants, it'll be bigger quantities. So that's kind of where all this happens.
Of course, when dealing with fresh greens and vegetables, an investment in refrigeration technology is needed.
So the cooler over here is where we keep all when stuff comes off the field, it gets put in here right away because the field doesn't come off of the vegetables. And then once we've got it all portioned up and ready for the market, it goes back in this space. And this is like just an enclosed trailer that my sister and I gutted and insulated, and then I had a refrigeration guy come and turn it into a cooler.
Okay, so you can actually have it mobile if you need.
Exactly, yeah. But I'm finding that I'm out of space now, like over Thursday, Friday when I'm getting ready for the market. This is so packed that I'm just in the midst of building another walk-in cooler just to kind of free up some more space. So this is the new walk-in cooler that I'm building. This I bought from a cafe that shut down recently in Moose Jaw. So it's just going to be a nice big walk-in cooler space. We're going to insulate the walls around the shed as well, just for a little extra insulation, so we're not using as much power.
Keri provides a number of restaurants and local chefs with fresh greens and vegetables on a weekly basis during the summer. As a result, she offers a service to the restaurateurs that solves a problem for them, and at the same time, it benefits her urban farming operation.
So over in this area of the yard, I have my compost bins set up. When I do deliveries to restaurants, we have a exchange, I'll leave them an empty tote, and when I come back, they fill it with their scraps and with different food items, and then I bring it and dump it in here. I do it with different coffee shops and stuff as well, because the coffee grounds are great nitrogen for the compost. So it is a big part. I don't use chemical fertilizers at all, so this compost is actually a really important part of the business. I have these at all of my garden spaces, big compost. Helps reduce their waste, right? So, and it helps by turning the waste from the restaurant back into soil and just kind of circling it back into the soil.
While being an urban farmer has its challenges in terms of obtaining a land base, because of the urban environment, the growing season is actually longer than out in the country.
Because we have so much concrete and pavement around, it's like a heat sink, so I can plant my stuff earlier than gardeners that are outside the city. And there's also benefits, like I don't really have to deal with deer problems, different pests, don't come into my space, and water. I use city water, so it's pretty convenient. I just hook up timers onto the faucet and it waters it.
Keri has also managed to find a way to cope with various pests and diseases without relying on chemical control.
I use different techniques for pest control. A lot of the main way I do it is fabric row covers. It's those white covers that are over top of my plants, so I'll just bury the edges in dirt and pests can't get in. I rotate my crops too, so I'm making sure I'm not planting the same thing 2 times in a row in the same space.
Even though Keri used to be an electrical contractor, she has found out that becoming an urban farmer opens you up to a very unique customer base.
My customers are a totally different demographic of people. They're maybe even a different mindset. I found, when I was doing the electrical thing, you're just working for somebody, and it's not, I don't know, it's just a totally different feel. Now I'm providing people with nutrition, right? And I I eat this way myself and I care about it, so when I'm talking about it I get all excited and we can kind of exchange information, and it's just a totally, and I find I have a different relationship with everybody that's involved with the business, whether it's my customers or my garden people or the chefs, or it's just like a more wholesome kind of real, like authentic relationship, whereas before it just seemed like it was just business and, you know, I'm providing a service, you're going to pay me for it, like that's kind of all it was about. And now it's just a totally different feel, totally different connection with people. My goal is to just, you know, be making enough so that I can do a bit of traveling, have a little bit of savings, and just live comfortably. You know, I don't want to go over that threshold where, you know, I'm just worried about the money and going that way. Like I just love everything about I love everything else that the business brings. Like, so if I can just make it so that I'm making a decent living, I'll cap it off. Other people should be doing this too. It's not that I need to be the big vegetable grower in town. I think it's important that other people get involved and start doing the same thing. One of the biggest advantages of urban farming is the low input costs to start the business. You know, I see a lot of young people that would like to get into conventional farming or go that route, and it's so expensive to buy land, it's expensive to buy big machinery, you know, that kind of holds them back from actually starting up. Whereas something like this, you know, I have my first year I bought a rototiller, I had a few hand tools and a bike, and away I went, right? So it didn't, you know, and then you can build from there, but it's very low overhead.
Kirby Froese, who is one of Keri's urban farming land providers, feels the future is very bright for someone considering urban farming. Kirby says if you have some urban property or space that you would like to turn over to an urban farmer, he suggests there is a place you can go to possibly find such a person.
Go to the farmer's market. You find out who's growing. Help them out a little bit by maybe contributing a bit of your yard. You know, that's getting a little bit closer to the food we eat. There's nothing wrong with that.
Meanwhile, Keri says there are lots of resources online to teach you how to become an urban farmer.